one time after the pandemic. Actually, Indonesia and Jakarta was my first stop after 2.5 years of no travel. I'm still holding off my mother trying to get in touch with Pa Anis Baswedan, why that is the case. But that was the time when Jakarta was actually celebrating its 495th anniversary, and there was a launch in Pulau Bidadari. Maybe before we start off, and as I frame the conversation, we're joined together, and I will call them on stage. We're joined together by eminent speakers who are here to provide us with their insights. Exactly, we've discussed, we've heard about social justice, equity. We've heard about really digitization and sort of like the disruptions. But when we talk about what that means on the ground, what that means, it's really the cities and local governments being at the
front that knows how important networks of cities are and has put a lot of effort in ensuring that our networks work is the city of Jakarta. Is our home away from home, as I call it, for UCLG, because it's the host of UCLG ASPAC. Mayor, the question for you as well, Governor, around what is the role that we can play as groups of cities, as urban 20 cities, in providing affordable and sustainable housing?
Sure. Thank you, Emilia. As we talk about U20s, and this is an organizations that have membership across continents. And let's look back a little bit about our history. We used to have inequalities between countries, between continents. The gap was wide, but now inequalities between countries were narrowing. On the other hand, inequality within countries is widening. And that's the same thing with inequality between major cities. For example, like Jakarta and Los Angeles, or Tokyo, or Rotterdam. We used to have a wider gap between us. But now, when we visited all these cities, we are experiencing narrowing gaps of that, in terms of its economy, in terms of its infrastructures, and all of that. However, within country, within city, inequality is widening. So the challenge for us in the U20 is now, how do we address inequalities that is happening within our cities? And that with regard to housing. So for example, if I may share some of our experience in the cities, Jakarta is no exception to this. We have inequalities, just in other cities. And this is also, I would say, worsened by the fact that the Indonesian economy is centralized in Jakarta. We contributed 18% of our national GDP. So you can imagine the magnitude of and also the magnetic power of Jakarta to everyone in the regions to come here and make a better living. So our approach is this. Within our community, within our residents, if I may use some of the terms that Mayor Ahmed used earlier, the market mechanism works for those with strong purchasing power. For those with strong purchasing power, the market mechanism truly works. There is developers as suppliers of housing, and then there is this residents of Jakarta that have purchasing power as the demand side, and transaction is happening. And then we are seeing development. We're seeing complex township being built. The challenge is more on those with less purchasing power and those with no purchasing powers. And this is, I would say, the developing working class and also the poor. And for that, government intervene. So we intervene on that market mechanism by creating a program that is called the zero down payment housing project. Many of the working class were able to pay monthly payment, but unable to pay the 20% down payment. Government step in, take care of that 20%. Not that they have to pay 80% only. They will actually pay 100%, but longer period, because the government is taking care of the first 20% of that down payment. That's where government intervene for those who are already making minimum wage, a little bit above minimum wage. The challenge then, the third component, is those who are among the poor. This is where we provide the renting scheme. So rent house from our facility, we build the towers, we build the units, and they will be renting with us. And at the rate that is way much lower than any renting outside. And that is for the poor. Now, these are the formal component. And that's how we address, and I think this is something that we must also start thinking to sort of a exchange lesson. Because I think the experience of Jakarta is no unique. We are experiencing inequalities across cities. The last point that I'd like to share here is we are also dealing with traditional neighborhood, which is called kampung. I think in English word there is no translation to that, so kampung is adopted into English because there is no equivalent to kampung. And this is a traditional setting, and this is where slums were growing. And this is the place where regenerations were addressed in Jakarta, making the kampung healthy kampung, not by abolishing kampung, but by nurturing, but making it a healthy and hygiene kampung. Last point is tax. The government must intervene on the tax. Jakarta is among, as example, Jakarta is among the most expensive property tax in Indonesia. If we, the city government, not addressing property tax, sooner or later, property tax will be a polite way to say, move away from the city for those who are in the lower scale of our society. So in Jakarta, we adopted a model in which if the price of your house is below 2 billion rupiah, then the property tax is zero. And that has helped 85% of home in Jakarta to be property tax free. And that is to avoid the poor from being pushed away from the city through tax mechanism, which often from our perspective, we need the property tax for our revenue. So those are three key components that we try to address. The formal through market and non-market, the informal, the kampung, and also the property tax. I hope I contributed to your questions. Thank you.